Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Unraveled. Today we want to discuss a very important topic in the field of facility management, yet often overlooked. That is residential facility management and what it encompasses. As always, my guest is Liam Booker. Liam, you're welcome once again.
Thanks, Prince.
Yeah, Liam. So today we want to look at residential facility management and what it entails. Now, in simple terms, tell us what is residential facility management.
Okay, so residential facility management it's the end-to-end management of people, property and processes, but particularly the whole experience of what it feels to live within in a residential facility. And facility management is basically, it's not just about the building existing, it's what brings the building to life.
Okay, that's fine. Now, with this explanation, can we look at how distinct this is from the corporate facility management and then the commercial facility management?
Sure.
Tell us the difference between a residential and then a corporate and then the commercial facility management.
Okay, so I think that residential facility management is much more nuanced. And what I mean by nuanced is that it has many variables. Obviously, you have the hard and the soft side to it, just as with commercial facility management. The hard being the technical backbone, things like the electrical systems, the power systems, elevator, cooling systems, so on and so forth. And what these do is that if they stop working, then the building stops functioning. Then you have the soft services, the cleaning, security, the gardening, etc. And whilst those are not critical to the functionality of the building, what it does is it gives people a sense of what it feels to live there. That's what elevates their experience of living there. Now, why I say it's more nuanced and where it becomes more I would say different to the commercial facility management is that when it comes to the stakeholder management, I would say it's much more pronounced.
Sure.
You have essentially a central governing body, which would be the homeowners association, which then contract a facility manager to manage the facility. So your routine meetings would be with the homeowners association. Now, whilst the homeowners association, every member or homeowner is a member of the homeowners association, the homeowners association come together and elect executive members to steer the affairs of the committee or the development. So the facility manager deals with them on a routine basis to try and get a sense of where things are going and try to steer things in the right direction. You then have a day-to-day management with all of the individual homeowners. And homeowners come in two camps. Obviously, you have the homeowner occupiers, people that buy a building with the intention to stay there. Then you have homeowner investors. Homeowner investors, therefore, then rent their properties out to a tenant and therefore cede the day-to-day responsibility of the property to a tenant, and therefore you have another stakeholder that you have to liaise with. And then when you peel all of those layers back, you then have the day-to-day vendors, the visitor management, the other dependents that live in the property. So on a typical day-to-day, you're dealing with the homeowners association, the executive members of the homeowners association, the homeowners, the tenants, the vendors, and the visitors. So I think it's much more nuanced in that respect rather than the commercial facility management setting, whereby the interaction is ordinarily between whoever the custodian is of the client. Maybe it's the corporate support department or the facility management department, and then us as a vendor. So I would say that, in my opinion, is the main difference.
All right. So, Liam, help us with this. Can you walk us through some of the key areas in residential facility management, that when someone says that I manage a residential facility, what is involved?
Okay, so I've already mentioned the hard and the soft services, which is it's critical, and they're the two layers that sit at the top of everything. Again, the hard services is the technical backbone. That's all your power systems, your plumbing systems, your technical systems, essentially. You have the soft services, which complements, the hard services in delivering a service. But then underneath that, you have I would say, a whole plethora of different services, for want of a better word. you have to be able to understand financial management, because the key to success in residential facility management is being able to gather enough service charge or homeowner dues or common area management fees, people call it different things, to be able to service the day-to-day management of the facility. And when you talk about day-to-day management or financial management of facility, it comes in two aspects. You have the OPEX or operational expenditure element, which is your service charges I mentioned before. And that caters to the day-to-day running of the facility, things like security, changing of light bulbs, servicing of the solar system, servicing of the water purification system, so on and so forth. But then you also have a CapEx aspect to it as well, or capital expenditure aspect to it, which is often referred to as a sinking fund. So that's a fund that you collect from homeowners to be able to call upon on a rainy day, such that you have to maybe replace an asset, or you have to do any sort of critical improvement works that haven't been budgeted for in the operational budget. So that's when it comes to the financial management. You then have the, I would say, homeowner association management as well. So you're there to manage the affairs of the homeowners association in terms of making sure that the members stay, register stays up to date, making sure that you inform clients of what you're doing in terms of preventive maintenance calendar or preventive maintenance you're having, if there's any changes in regulatory policies or anything like that. And generally just being able to manage the affairs of the homeowners association. I would say that the main the main framework that we work with in that regard is the bylaws. So we work with the homeowners association to be the custodian of the bylaws and use that as the means to manage the entire development. So that's like the stakeholder management side of things, and I would say that's the most difficult aspect when it comes to residential facility management. And then finally, underneath all of that, it's the foundation. You've got the governance piece. That's things like I mentioned before, the preventive maintenance calendar. It is things like your checklist, your standard operating procedures, and the KPIs that you have as an organization between you and your staff that shows what good performance looks like. Also, maybe service level agreements that you have with third-party vendors, etc. So it's quite multifaceted and dynamic.
Okay, so you come to the issue of preventive maintenance, like you mentioned, but I want to find out from you. In today's urban environment, why do you think residential facility management is important?
Well, first and foremost, I think that when anybody invests in property as an asset, they're looking to one of two things. Either they're going to live there and they want it to be a pleasing experience. Sure. So you have to make sure that you're able to render that to them, or they've invested in it as an asset. And not only do they want to be getting their monthly payments out of that asset, but they want to see some sort of capital appreciation. And the only way an asset can appreciate is if it's looked after in the correct manner and if you invest in it. And you know, it's quite interesting, actually. I think that many people think that, okay, I'm going to build or I'm going to invest in a property, and once I've done that, it's the end of the story. But when you look at the whole life cycle of a building, about 30% of the cost comes in terms of putting the building up. 70% is actually given to the maintenance and ongoing management of the building. So I don't think it's given enough credence. I really don't think so. I think it's an area that really has to be concentrated on. And now people are starting to see the need for residential facility management. The buildings previously consisted of 4 walls and were very basic. But now you look around town, you've got people introducing solar, you've got people introducing water purification, you've got complicated power management. Waste management is a critical thing in terms of making sure that you can segregate and be a good corporate citizen. So I think the developments nowadays are becoming much more complicated, and they now require the need of a specialist to be able to step in and manage them.
Sure. So now you gave us the percentage that goes into the construction of the building, and the ones that also goes into the management of the building as well. Now, so tell us the role of preventive management in residential facility management.
Okay. So essentially, preventive maintenance, you have 2 types of maintenance. You have your preventive maintenance and your reactive maintenance. And ideally, I mean, what you want is for preventive maintenance to prevail over reactive maintenance. That's what you want. Preventive maintenance is like is almost getting something ahead of time, whereas reactive maintenance is just firefighting and feels like you're always chasing your own tail. Now, preventive maintenance, the ratio that we work with internally and the KPIs that we give to each of our facility managers is the magic number seems to be about 80%. So 80% preventive maintenance and 20% reactive maintenance. So we benchmark that and we make sure that we follow the data month on month, and ideally we want to be tipping the scale such that 80% of the work that we do is preventative and then the other 20% is reactive. Ideally it can be higher than that, but that's where the very minimum that we're willing to accept.
But in your day-to-day operations, which one do you resort to? Do you resort to the reactive maintenance, or you resort to the
Preventive, always preventive. I mean, the whole setup of our day, in fact, the whole setup of our entire governance structure is such that we try and resolve things before they become an issue. So our checklist is such that we capture data points, we capture certain things that informs us of the performance of any sort of asset. And if we're able to follow them data points, an example would be the generator. You're looking at a generator and you're looking at the fuel that you've put in, the running hours, and you're looking at the consumption of fuel. And if you can see it depleting over time, you can see that it's a trigger point for something is wrong with the generator. And as such, it's better to go in and do preventive maintenance. You know, sometimes as facility managers, we say that every 3 months or every, let's say 180 hours. Yeah. But sometimes you also have to listen to the generator and the data that you're getting off the genset. And if it means that you have to go in earlier and do your preventive maintenance, then you do that. So I think that ideally we always try to err on the side of preventive maintenance rather than reactive maintenance. And it's also much cheaper. It might seem difficult to be able to spend something where it might not be needed yet. But if you look at the trend over time, reactive maintenance is much more expensive than preventive maintenance.
But there will be some debates about that, but maybe that would be a topic for another. But again, this brings us to the role or the core function of the facility manager in residential facility management. So tell us, what is the core function of the FM as far as residential facility management is concerned?
The core role is to let users of the development feel like facility management doesn't exist. Because if they feel like we don't exist, that means there's no problems. That is in its purest essence. You know, if you come into a facility and you don't notice anything and you don't even know that a facility management team exists, that means that we're doing our job perfectly. I mean, ultimately, what we always say is that our currency is client satisfaction. And if we have client satisfaction, and the rest follows. Now, in order to do that, there's certain things that we have to achieve, and that's what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Again, I mean, once we are talking about residential facility management, obviously there's going to be issues that comes from the tenant perspective. I don't know, in your operations, do you face issues from tenant, and how do you go about it, solving that for them?
Definitely. And the reason is, if you look at the pain point, maybe it's not pain points is the wrong wording. If you look at the requirements or the expectations of a tenant vis-a-vis a homeowner or vis-a-vis a homeowner investor, all of them are very particular to that group. Yeah. Tenants are focused on here and now. All they want is an experience that is beneficial to them here and now. Whereas a homeowner investor, they're very mindful that they own the asset. So they have a much longer term view on things. So when they're making a decision, they're thinking about not just now, but what happens in the future as well. So it's very important that from a client experience point of view, you have your capabilities and your mechanisms to managing tenants, and then a separate framework that you use to managing homeowners, and a separate framework that you use to managing homeowner investors. And where it becomes complicated is when they all merge into one and you have to try and chart a path forward. But you know, that's why you call on a specialist or professionals, because that's what we're able to do.
Now, this is also on a lighter note. Have you ever experienced or faced a crazy tenant before, and who is facing numerous issues in his apartment, and then you solve the issue, and then all of a sudden, no complaints again. I don't know if you feel something.
Oh, of course. It's the nature of the job, actually. Tenants, vendors, homeowner investors. We've all experienced people that are irate. And I think the first thing is you have to be able to empathize, because nobody gets irate for no reason. They're irate for a certain reason. So if you're able to empathize and understand where they're coming from, and then you also try and proffer a solution, that's the important thing. Being able to focus on the solution and being able to resolve the issue that the tenant, the homeowner, whoever the stakeholder is, whichever issue that they have. So I think if you can focus on that, you can empathize, and you have the maybe the emotional intelligence to be able to deal with that, then you can de-escalate it as quick as possible. It's actually something that we do within the organization when it comes to personal development. We've had specialists come out and look at de-escalating these sort of things. So we've had specialists that come in, from psychologists to specialists in their field, that work with the team to look at how you can de-escalate such situations in order to come out of it on top.
Now, of course, in a discussion like this, there's no way you will jettison or leave technology out. Now, with the emergence of AI and all that, I want to find out from you, do you think technology plays a role in residential facility management?
Massive, huge. I think in a previous podcast, we made mention of it, and I can't remember the quote itself, but I think to ignore technology is to basically your own peril, because technology is the future. There's no two ways about it. And it'll assist us with regards to preventive maintenance. It'll assist us with regards to visitor management. It will allow us to run through all of the data points and make sort of sense of them much easier. So, I mean, as an organization right now, we're even in the midst of trying to come together and form a data and AI department to see how we can use AI and data as a means to equip our facility managers and our workers to make the best decisions on a day-to-day basis. So, in summary, I think that technology is a huge part of facility management going forward. And if we ignore that, then again, I think it'll be to our own detriment.
Yeah, so I want us to practicalize this. I mean, let's look with the examples with you and tell us, has there been a time where you used AI or technology that aided you in the execution of a plan that you thought of?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say the first one that comes to mind is hiring. And this is maybe it's not peculiar to facility management company, but maybe it's peculiar to anybody that runs an organization. And we saw that, you know, the industry that we work in, certain roles come with, I would say, high turnover, staff turnover. And we realized that there were certain levels of staff that were staying longer than others. So what we tried to do is to look at the data. We put the data into one of these AI platforms, and we used it to be able to predict sort of key traits of staff that stay longer than others. And it was able to throw out profiles of staff in terms of age, location, family dynamics, you know, socioeconomic status, things that with regards to the relationship between them and ourselves, that allowed us to then build a candidate profile for hiring people at a certain facility. So I think that we've used it to our advantage in terms of that. But then again, I think that we use it in terms of our preventive maintenance quite a lot as well. The facility management department, I know that they're quite advanced with its use. So on a day-to-day basis, we tend to have examples of how technology aids us in our work.
Now, so we've spoken a lot about what residential facility management is. Now, why do you think that people overlook residential facility management? Right? Like I said that it's one of the important topics that people overlook. Why do you think that people overlook residential and then go to the corporate and then the commercial?
I think the amount of hard work that's required. You know, you're never off the clock, permanently on the clock. You have clients calling you at 2 a.m. in the morning saying that the AC isn't working, and it's purely because they've got it in heat mode rather than cool.
The AC is leaking.
Yes, the AC is leaking. And you know, a lot of our clients are expatriates, and therefore they're coming from countries whereby they're not used to power cuts or anything like this. So Yeah, it's very demanding. We always have to be alert and ready. For that reason, we've got out of office, a whole out of office team as well that take us overnight. So it's 24/7. And if you don't have the will and the patience to be able to do that, then it can be quite daunting.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you deal with your foreign clients compared to those in the country? I know because they understand the situation in the country. When the lights on off, they understand. But the clients coming from outside, how do you deal with such people? How are you able to communicate with them just so that you are able to placate them in one way or the other? How are you able to do that?
Well, I think that, I don't want to pretend that we've got the answer or the magic formula that allows us to do that. But to be honest, what we do is we just try and communicate as much as possible. We try and make sure that we're there to sensitize them and we're able to be as reliable as possible to be able to attend to their problems whenever they have one. So there's no point in time where you can reach out to us where we'll say that we'll be with you in the morning. We have a very strict SLA in terms of if any complaint is raised, we try and attend to it within the hour. That doesn't matter if it's 12:30 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, 2:30 in the afternoon, Christmas Day, holidays. We run 365 days a year. So we're always available and we're always there. I think reliability is really, really important. Reliability, and then also I think patience is equally important as well.
So what it means is that communication also plays a role here.
Huge.
Yes.
Huge.
Because I've seen a lot of communication issues in most of the things that you've spoken about. But again, we use communication in solving these issues. And that's kudos on that aspect of that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching today's episode of Unraveled. Do well to subscribe and then like our videos. Thank you.